So some communities in the areas affected by floods in KwaZulu-Natal are still struggling to access water. Last week, Amaoti residents had to fill buckets with water from a burst pipe that had been damaged by the floods. The National Department of Water and Sanitation visited the province, and we're joined now by the Deputy Minister of the Water and Sanitation Ministry, that's Mr. David Mahlobo. Thank you very much, sir, for availing yourself this morning. So maybe let's start with this institutional mechanism or a water war room that has since been established. What do we need to understand about that?
Well, thank you very much to all your viewers. What has happened as a response by His Excellency the President, Minister Mkhune and myself and other ministries, we went down to KwaZulu-Natal. And in response to the biggest challenges of our time in terms of infrastructure for water and sanitation, where the bulk infrastructure is severely damaged and a number of communities have no access to water, and including the sanitation system. The minister then decided to bring up a multidisciplinary and intergovernmental water war room. That war room is chaired by the DSTV Metro. It has the Department of Water and Sanitation. It has COPTA. It has Umgeni Water. It has the Roads Department, Human Settlements. They are all there together. In the main, there is a plan that has been produced. Firstly, to ensure that we stabilize the system with a number of quick wins. One of the quick wins is to provide water immediately to communities that have no access to water or that they've been cut off over the last few days. But it also includes stabilizing the system in terms of the water network, that where water was actually being provided, we get that. At the very same time, we're also looking at the issue of bringing more technical capacity so that we can be able to bring engineers and scientists to do a proper assessment and cost the details that needs to be there. Then there must be the rebuilding and reconstruction of most of the infrastructure that has been damaged. That will be in the medium term and the long term. And then lastly, we have a team that is also dealing with issues of material acquisition, including plant hire, equipment, and all these other issues like steel, issues of importing of sand or soil because the soil has been washed away, including those issues of procurement that must be handled in a manner that is transparent, more vigilant, and it should not be exploited. But more importantly, there is the biggest element of public-private sector partnership, where NGOs, community-based organizations, and business, they've been lending a hand in ensuring that a number of these communities in eThekwini, Ugu, Ilembe, and the other districts that are affected, they need to be supported by government, especially in our own sector.
Deputy Minister, we understand that another challenge in making sure that communities have access to water is some other communities are hogging the supply provided by tankers. What does that mean? Is there no one that is actually administering this process?
Well, there were some problems at the beginning. One of the things that had to be done was to mobilize the water tankers. And when they were being mobilized, because the system was erratic, at a particular point, the Durban Metro or eThekwini should be receiving nearly 840 megaliters of water per day. The system, because it was so damaged, it was providing less than 385 megaliters. Then many areas had no access to water at all, or there was a low pressure. As we speak now, the system is stabilized. We are able to provide more than 475 megaliters. In other words, there are those communities that continue to receive water from the taps, but there are challenges because the infrastructure is damaged, the taps sometimes there's leakages that are happening, roads are washed away, and we are actually putting plumbers there, artisans, including the clearing of those roads. That's one element. But on the tankering, there were certain incidents that drivers reported that when they came into those communities, that have been very agitated, very angry that they have not been receiving water, because water is an emotive issue. no one can live without water. Then they started to block those particular water tankers, redirect them. Hawking is about being more greedy, taking more than what you need. But that situation, I want to report now, that is being attended to. There is more fleet. There is a lot of these tankers that are moving as we speak, more than 150 of them, including the filling points. Now we're having more pressure and more filling points because it was one of those weaknesses. But in terms of communication, councillors and ward committees are the ones that will communicate with communities which routes, at what time is that water going to be available. But even if they look at the Metro website, that information is available. But there are still those communities where we can't reach because the roads are still not accessible. That's why in that war room, all these other departments and organizations are assisting us to receive, to be able to access those areas.
So will the war room also be looking, at infrastructure going into the future and beefing that up? We are receiving some reports that there had been problems with water plants even before the heavy rains in KwaZulu-Natal. I guess this just made it worse. But what plans are in place, I guess not just from a natural disaster point of view, but moving forward to make sure that the water situation in KwaZulu-Natal is taken care of?
Well, we are correct on that. Some of these infrastructure were not in good condition even before the flooding, and the floods have exacerbated the situation. We just came from a water summit that was held by Minister Mtun and ourselves, where we agreed with all municipalities and stakeholders that investment in infrastructure is going to be one of the biggest issues that we attend to, both in terms of the source, in terms of bulk, but also the issues of maintenance, because even when you go on a site visit, most of these infrastructure that is old, the type of technology that was being used in the pipes, and Etegwin, as an example, have been losing more than close to 40% of their own water. In other words, every drop that counts, you are losing it, and you still have to pay for that. During this reconstruction and rebuilding phase, as indicated, the question of the bulk infrastructure is going to be attended to, but at the very same time, we need to look at some technologies that would be adapting to climate change so that you don't have a situation where infrastructure now and then, because we know that in the Eastern Seaboard, there will be more rains going forward as a response of climate change in our country. Our technology, our methods of construction, we can't continue with those conventional methods of doing construction. Therefore, this is an opportunity that, while there's a disaster, is an opportunity to fix that infrastructure. And our engineers are currently on the ground as I speak to access, so that we don't do a patchwork, but we are able to ensure that the money that is being spent there is sustainability of our intervention, including on those wastewater plants, because the rivers are being polluted with effluent water. At the very same time, the sea, you don't want to have a catastrophe or another disaster of waterborne diseases like typhoid and others, and they must be attended to be in a good way. The last point, one of the issues that we must attend to is spatial planning, where infrastructure is and where people must be located, because some of our infrastructure get exposed because they are being built on the floodline. And when these kind of rains and this volume that we receive, they come in, that infrastructure get to be flooded, and in many instances, they get to be washed away.
Minister, Deputy Minister, I beg your pardon, sir. Before we let you go, a number of municipalities making an announcement also last week that there will be an increase, or they're contemplating increases and tariff hikes for water specifically. Salga coming out against this move, not quite happy, and a number of residents also who are saying, well, they're quite hard pressed. The department's position?
Well, it has not been an easy decision around this question of tariffs, because we must also understand the economic situation is not doing well, and some of this burden is going to be borne by those who could not afford. But at the very same time, we should also accept that the user pay principle has been a norm. Therefore, we need to understand that the cost for fuel has gone up, which is an input cost, the cost for electricity, the cost for chemicals. Whatever increases that must be there, we want to be considerate about the plight of our people. But at the very same time, those people who are able to pay, they must be able to pay for services, especially business and government. But government, those people who are so vulnerable, our social security network must be able to come in, cushion the poor, especially around the question of free basic water, free basic electricity, but at the very same time, also saying to our people, let's use these resources in a responsible way because we don't have them plenty, and we must be able to keep to our quotas.
Thank you very much, sir, for availing yourself this morning. David Mahlobo is the Deputy Minister for Water and Sanitation.